Welcome to the first special edition of the Black Box interviews I will make the coming months with special guests. Today an interview with the Russian ambassador. After the 24th February 2022, I had two exclusive interviews with the former Russian ambassador to the Netherlands, Mr. Shulgin, and one with the new Russian ambassador, Mr. Tarabrin. Time for an update with him. The Netherlands is, on the Ukrainian side, participating in a war between Russia and Ukraine. Our mainstream media is giving a very one-sided pro-Ukrainian and anti-Russian view on the conflict. It is crucial for peace settlement to have a dialogue with Russia and start listening to the arguments from the other side. I'm Ab Gietelink for Black Box, and my guest today is the Russian Ambassador, Mr. Vladimir Tarabrin. Okay, Mr. Tarabrin, welcome to the Black Box studio. There's almost 3.5 years now, dramatic war or military special operation, as you call it, going on between Russia and Ukraine, with a lot of victims and a lot of destruction. In the upcoming interview, I like to make clear what is the Russian position in this conflict. But the first question I have for you is, what is your own background?
Well, I've been here as ambassador of the Russian Federation to the Netherlands for now 1.5 years. I came and presented my credentials in January 2024. But before, certainly, I had a very long diplomatic career. Today, the 1st of August, is 46 years since I joined the Foreign Service. I entered the Foreign Ministry on the 1st of August 1979.
Right.
Yeah, and then I worked in different posts abroad and in Moscow. I spent many years in Africa. I was a legal advisor and head of the legal mission of the legal department in our mission to the United Nations in New York. I spent 15 years in the legal department of the Foreign Ministry. Then I was ambassador to Gabon, a state in Central Africa.
Right.
Then I was director of the Department of New Challenges and Threats. It's a department that deals with international cooperation in anti-criminal matters mainly. And now I'm here, and I'm very glad for this opportunity to address the Dutch audience. I don't have many opportunities, frankly speaking, to speak with the Dutch people,
right,
because mainstream media ignores Russian embassy.
Right.
Or if they ask us, it's not a fair questions, it's a kind of a very controversial questions that are not meant to be answered, in an honest way, because their aim is just to distort the reality. So I am very glad to speak to you. Thank you very much.
Well, what is the position of the Russian embassy? You said already that you felt quite isolated in the Dutch media and the Dutch politics. Do you have any relations there, or can you tell something more about it?
We have working relations with the Foreign Ministry. It mainly concerns the position of the embassy here in The Hague and the Dutch embassy in Moscow, so we discussed practical issues. Regrettably, we have very little dialogue on political issues. Just during my arrival here, I had maybe just a couple of meetings in the Foreign Ministry on political issues. And certainly that's not the way that we believe the things should be done, because without a dialogue, it's absolutely impossible to find solutions. We are prepared. We are prepared to discuss, to just to bring to the attention our point of view, our position, to just to argue. But we are deprived of this opportunity.
How do you, when you look the way the Dutch media and the Western media in general is giving an image of the conflict, what do you think then?
I mean the conflict?
Yeah, Russia, Ukraine, right?
Ukraine. Well, it's absolutely biased approach that is based exclusively on the point of view of one side, Ukraine.
Right.
It absolutely ignores our points, our position, our view on this. And that's why, regrettably, the Dutch public has to just face with only one picture, one side of the picture, you know. That is completely wrong. That is completely wrong. It doesn't give Dutch audience, Dutch viewers, Dutch readers, an opportunity to, you know, just to judge, to develop their own view on this. Yeah, comparing, for instance, two different approaches. Right. It's only one approach and nothing else.
You want to say that in the climate which we have the last 3.5 years in Holland, which the last 1.5 year you are ambassador here, you feel a kind of Russophobia or not? Is that too much?
You know, I can say that I do not feel Russophobia in ordinary public and just among people. No, when I walk in the streets, when I visit shops, for instance, or some kind of other installations, sometimes they ask me, "Where are you from?" I am not afraid to saying I am Russian. Right. Yeah, and there is always a smile, you know, just a kind of a friendly gesture. But certainly we see a lot of Russophobia in the political circles, in the media, in the mainstream media. Yeah, that's the fact. That's the fact. You know, just sometimes we even we smile, but it's a bitter smile when we read that Russians are preparing some kind of you know, subversive actions in when there is some accident in the railway. Yeah, oh, it's Russian embassy. Yeah, yeah, or electricity cut. Yeah, right. In The Hague. Oh, perhaps it's Russians who did it. Yeah,
there was a couple. The last weeks there was a kind of fuss about a Dutch parliamentarian who was part of a meeting. How did you look to that?
Well, I think yes, he just participated in the exchange of views. He presented his position, and that was nothing more.
Yeah, it was Mr. Ralph Decker from the Forum for Democracy.
Yeah,
right?
Ralph Decker. Yes, he was invited to participate in a video conference, and so he addressed this video conference with the participation of Russian parliamentarians and perhaps parliamentarians from some other countries. And that's it. That's it. Yeah. But I think these attacks against him can be regarded as a part of the electoral campaign that has started. Yeah. It's a part of it. But
before we go to the causes of the war, I want some actual reaction on you on the Palestine question. As you know, in the moment, there's a lot of discussion about what is happening in Gaza, and even the Dutch Parliament is coming back the next week for a meeting about what is happening to Gaza. Maybe it's important to say, what is the Russian position on Israel, Palestine, Gaza?
Well, our position is very clear, you know. We always supported the decisions of the United Nations, the Security Council. This is two-state decision, yeah? So there should be two states, Palestine and Israel, living together in peace, and in a very friendly, if we can achieve it, in a friendly atmosphere, yeah. The framework is there. Yeah, I mean, the resolutions of the Security Council, the decisions of the General Assembly, it must be implemented. We certainly support the aspirations of the Palestinian people to have their own state. We recognized Palestine long ago, and we have very good bilateral relations. We have a mission in Moscow, we have a mission in Palestine. We just develop bilateral cooperation, but at the same time we never claimed that the state of Israel doesn't have the right to exist. No. There should be two states living together there. You know,
and the difference between you and the Americans and the northwest of Europe, including the Netherlands, is that you recognized already the state of Palestine. That was long ago. 141 of the 193 countries in the world recognized that. And we in the northwest of Europe, including the Netherlands, didn't recognize.
Yeah, I think it should be done. It should be done. Certainly, I am not giving any advice to the Netherlands government, since it's not my habit of doing things as foreign ambassador. I do not interfere into the domestic politics of the Netherlands. So it's up to them to decide. But I think since the majority of the
1947.
1947 of member states of the United Nations have already recognized Palestine. It's high time for the rest of the world community to do the same and to exert pressure on Israel in order to stop their atrocities in Gaza.
We go back to Ukraine, Russia. And first of all, we ask ourselves, what are the causes of this war? And the first thing has to do with the NATO expansion from 1991 to 2024. 16 European countries joined NATO. What happens for you from your side, and what is the problem with that?
You know, yes, the question of this conflict is that it didn't start in 2022. It even didn't start in 2014. Though that was the trigger, you know. The root causes of the conflict, you know, just became evident much earlier, when Ukraine gained independence upon the dissolution of the Soviet Union. It was in 1991. Russia rendered enormous material, financial, political support to the young Ukrainian state, you know. And that lasted for all the last decade of the 20th century and during the first years of the 21st century. But then what we saw, that the West started to make out of Ukraine kind of an anti-Russia, you know, to instigate all kind of nationalistic feelings, you know, just to try to portray Ukraine as something absolutely different to Russia, though it's one people, you know, just Russians and Ukrainians are brotherly people. It's one people, to put it just, to say it frankly, right. Yeah, we have one language with different, maybe dialects, but it's we are one people, yeah. And then there was this Orange Revolution in 2006, when the elected president was not allowed to take his post, and there was a third round of elections that was absolutely illegal from the point of view of the constitution.
And you have the feeling in 2006 already the Western countries participating in
absolutely,
this election.
Absolutely.
And the Americans were part of the election.
Yeah, this Orange Revolution was organized by the West. It's absolutely clear. Absolutely clear. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and since then, this crisis began to develop, to become even more, I would say, difficult to solve. And then, in 2014, there was a coup d'état, absolutely coup d'état, when the legally elected president, Yanukovych, yes. Yeah. You may have different views upon his personality, upon the way he handled things, but he was a legitimate president. Yeah, yeah. He was ousted. He was given guarantees by the Western countries, including France and Germany, I think European Union. The next day, these guarantees were just dropped out, and then this absolutely illegal government came to power, and came to power on the wave of anti-Russian, just campaign. They immediately started to proclaim all Russians, including Russian language, Russian culture, Russian history, to be something absolutely alien to Ukraine, just to ban people speaking Russian, and etc. Yeah, and that certainly caused the I would say the rebellion of the eastern and southern parts of Ukraine, Lugansk, Donetsk regions. And certainly the Crimea, that didn't want to live in this state. Yeah, yeah.
So in fact, in 2014, with the coup d'état against the government of Mr. Yanukovych and his ousting,
the civil war started in Ukraine.
The civil war started in Ukraine was splits.
Yeah, because Lugansk, Donetsk, and Crimea, they didn't accept it. They didn't accept it, just there was a so-called, anti-terrorist operation.
Right. ATO.
ATO, yeah, that was also just launched by the Ukrainian authorities. It was a very bloody operation. And
what happens? What happens in this operation?
The territories of these regions, Lugansk and Donetsk, it was shelled, it was bombed.
Right.
There were civilian casualties, and between 2014 and 2022, more than 8,000 civilians were killed, by the Ukrainian army, by the Ukrainian. That was their own citizens, Right. So they were killing their own citizens, right. And at that time, President Poroshenko, he declared, "Our people," he meant Ukraine. this part of Ukraine under his rule, our people will go to schools, to kindergartens, will have everything, and these people, and he was addressing his own population of Donetsk and Lugansk, will stay in, just somewhere under the earth, in cells, yeah. Wow. And that was the approach of the authorities towards the population.
Maybe you can explain as well how the separation process in 2014 developed. Because first of all, the regions, which were in fact the autonomous Republic of Crimea and the later People's Republics of Lugansk and Donetsk, declared themselves independent and organized a kind of a referendum.
Yeah, first, what they demanded first, they demanded the recognition of the Russian language as the official language in their regions.
Right.
The respect for their historical views, historical rights, just to the right for them to feel themselves and to portray themselves as Russians, but they were Russians. And they were absolutely it was absolutely ignored by the authorities. It was not even ignored. Some nationalistic formations were sent to suppress it, and then certainly the war started, and then they proclaimed independence, then they organized referendums, and then...
What was the result of the referendum?
It was more than 90% in favor of independence. Then they asked the Russian Federation to admit them as parts of the federation, as subjects of the federation.
Then I remember in 2014, Mr. Putin and as well the parliaments, that's as well the Federation and as well the Duma, right, accepted Crimea.
Yeah.
But they didn't accept Donetsk and Luhansk.
Yeah, that was done much later.
Yeah. But why didn't they accept in 2014 the combination from Donetsk and Luhansk Russian Federation?
Yeah, because the situation with Crimea and Donetsk and Lugansk was a bit different. Crimea initially rejected any idea to live with Ukraine, it proclaimed its independence immediately upon the coup d'etat in 2014. Immediately, but
they said already that they were not in favor in 1992. So, or 91, on the beginning, they didn't want to be part of Ukraine. This is what I read as well.
Crimea? No, Crimea, it was in 2014.
Yeah. But they said already that they didn't were in favor for the independence of Ukraine when there was a separation between Ukraine and Russia.
Yes, in 1991. Yes. The population of Crimea didn't want to be part of Ukraine because it's a Russian population. Crimea has always been part of Russia for centuries. It didn't associate itself with Ukraine. It was an administrative decision of Mr. Khrushchev in 1954 when he decided to give Crimea in the administrative operation in the administrative part, as administrative part of Ukraine.
Right.
At that time, no one cared about it because we had one country. It was just for the sake of convenience that it was, from the geographical point of view, perhaps more convenient govern Crimea from Kiev and from Moscow. But that was not at that time. The danger of this decision was not appreciated, as well as, you know, that these eastern and southern part of Ukraine that was never historically connected with this part of Russia, because Ukraine was part of Russia. It was also administratively given to the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic by the decree of Bolsheviks in 1921.
Right.
You know? Yeah, so these were decisions that at that time no one believed had any far-reaching consequences, but later, you know, these consequences...
I remember that Mr. Putin once said that the fault was made by Mr. Lenin in 1921. But why didn't the Russian Federation accept Luhansk and Donetsk, not in 2014 and only in 2022?
I will explain, because at that time we believed that the solution could be found within the boundaries of Ukraine, and this solution was in the Minsk Agreements. You know?
Right.
There were Minsk Agreements in 2015, then 2016 Minsk II, and that was a very, I would say, fair solution for Ukraine, because it just envisages that these two republics remain within the boundaries of Ukraine,
right,
as parts of Ukraine, but with very, I would say, far-reaching autonomy,
right,
with the respect for Russian culture, Russian language, certainly, with self-governance, with the right to educate their people, their children in Russian, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, but these agreements were signed. They were even endorsed by the resolution of the Security Council. But the other side, I mean Ukraine and the Western countries, never seriously wanted to implement them. And they took it as a kind of, you know, just time-saving exercise.
Right.
Yeah. In 2014, the armed forces of Ukraine were rather weak, and they couldn't just fight with the.
You want to say that between 2014 and 2022. The West, especially NATO, built up the armed forces of Ukraine.
Yeah, and that was rather, I would say, cynically admitted by the former president of France, Mr. Hollande, and by the former Chancellor of Germany, Madame Merkel.
Right.
They said quite openly, no, we were not prepared to just fulfill these agreements. We needed this just to have some time.
They openly said, in fact, that the agreement was to cheat. Mr. Putin.
Right? That's just the photo when you see all of them sitting there. And if these agreements were implemented, the situation now would be quite different. But they were not even implemented.
You want to say that if these agreements, the Minsk Agreements from 2015, which were accepting the fact that Donetsk and Luhansk formerly were part of Ukraine, got autonomy, and of course the Ukrainian army would be out of these regions, right? This is the 3 points. When they would have implemented that, then there wouldn't be a war.
There wouldn't be a war, and these republics most probably would now be parts of the Ukraine. of Ukraine. Yeah. But you know, no one wanted peace. I mean, from the other side, they wanted war. They wanted to suppress the population, and the situation in as we approach 2022 became very serious. You know, when there was an intensification of the military attacks against Lugansk and Donetsk, when the Ukrainian armed forces were prepared to launch a massive attack on these republics. And that's why we had to interfere. That was not our choice, frankly speaking. We were not prepared to
There were maybe you have to tell something about communication between Russia and especially the Americans before the February 2002, so in January and in December.
Until the very last moment, we tried to find a political solution. In December 2021, we handed over to our Western partners at that time 2 draft agreements. One bilateral agreement between Russia and the United States, and the other bilateral agreement between Russia and NATO. That just stipulated the guarantees of our security, you know. And we sent high-ranking emissaries to both to Washington and to European capitals to discuss these drafts. And but neither the United States nor NATO, they said, no, we are not interested. You know, they said we are not going to discuss it. Yeah, and that's I would say the core reasons of the conflict that are now to be addressed and eliminated.
Yeah, something back on the 16 countries which were part of NATO since 1991. Maybe you should tell something about that. That is considered as a threat to the Russian safety.
Yeah. If we speak about NATO, NATO is an aggressive bloc, is a military political bloc that was created in 2049 with...
on 1949?
1949, with this only aim, you know, just just to confront the Soviet Union.
Right.
Yeah. That was the only aim.
Well, they see it, I mean, I was born in this area, as you know, and they presented as a defense bloc.
Yeah, but it was not a defense bloc, it was an aggressive bloc. And in 1954, I think 5 years after, even in 1955, the Warsaw Pact was created as an answer to NATO, comprising countries of Eastern Europe. Yeah. So there were 2 blocks. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Then the Warsaw Pact collapsed. Then the Soviet Union was dissolved. So what is the need for the NATO to exist? There is no need. There was no need, you know, because in the 90s, in 1990s, it was just mainly international detente, the relations between Russia and
Maybe you should tell something about what happened in Berlin and Moscow in 1990 between the government of under Mr. Gorbachev, the Soviet government, and the Western leaders, who made a deal that it was not possible to expand NATO.
There was a deal, and that was even before the collapse of the Soviet Union. That was a deal between Gorbachev and Western leaders, when we agreed to the unification of Germany,
Right.
to the dissolution of the Warsaw Pact, we could easily prevent it, you know. For instance, the unification of Germany was a goodwill of the Soviet Union, you know. We just allowed this to happen. Certainly.
You could prevent it because they were lying 450,000 Soviet soldiers in the AED.
And in East Germany and the German Democratic Republic at that time, there were very, I would say, mixed feelings, to put it mildly, about the reunification with Western Germany.
Right.
Yeah. And but Mr. Gorbachev agreed. Yeah. But he just asked for guarantees that the NATO should not expand eastwards. Yeah. And he was given these guarantees, but orally. That
right.
was, yeah.
Well, they were written down as well in certain. I mean, there was not an official contract.
Yeah,
they were written down.
There was not a legal obligation. You know,
right.
Just that was political commitments.
Right.
Political commitments that were later ignored. They were just thrown away, and then NATO began to expand. And former members of the Warsaw Pact joined it. Former Soviet republics, like, for instance, Baltic republics, joined NATO. But for us, the red line certainly was Ukraine, you know, because Ukraine is so close to the central part of Russia. We could not afford to have this part of the former Soviet Union as member of the anti-Russian military bloc, with the deployment of all kinds of weapons there.
And of course, there were millions, even tens of millions, of Ukraine Russians in the east and the south, Russian-minded. It would split up Ukraine in a civil war.
All polls that were conducted at that time showed that the majority of the population of Ukraine was strongly against joining NATO. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but these were just these security concerns were absolutely ignored, but. Until the very last moment, we tried to avoid the military solution, you know.
Yeah. Before we go there, before we go to what happened in the war, or the special military operation, as you call it, after 24 February of 2022, I want you to ask you to reflect something about BRICS. What is the position of BRICS? Because in the Western media is giving the impression that Russia is completely isolated in the rest of the world, especially, of course, from the West. What is your position on that?
Well, this is a very, I would say, wrong perception that Russia is isolated. Yes, we do not have now good relations. We have frost, I would say, relations with most of the European countries, with the United States, with Canada, with Australia, New Zealand, Japan. But if we mention, for instance, this global south, and this is the majority of the member states of the United Nations. We have excellent relations with them. And perhaps one of the manifestations of the fact that Russia is not isolated is this BRICS group that comprises big, influential countries from all parts of the world. Yeah.
Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa.
Yeah, so it was initially. Now we have 10.
Right, that's Iran,
Iran,
United Emirates, Ethiopia.
Ethiopia, yeah, and well, Saudi Arabia is a member state. He is a partner state, but yeah, 10 countries. We have 10 countries now.
Wow.
10 countries, yeah, and quite a number of countries are willing to.
They're 40.
Yeah,
I read, yes.
Yeah, so now there is also this concept of a partner state, you know, of BRICS, and yes, about 40. So, and it's not, I would say, Mr. Trump is saying, oh, it's an anti-American group. It's not an anti-American group. It's a group that comprises the states that have similar views on world development, and much emphasis is being paid within BRICS to humanitarian issues of cooperation, to economic ties, certainly, to strengthen trade, because when the United States is using dollar as a kind of a leverage, you know, just to be exerted on other state as a weapon, I would say, against other state. Certainly, others are seeking alternative means to develop their trade, to develop their economic relations, to go out of dollar, you know, just. We do not exclude dollar as a currency. It's an important currency. But we cannot rely upon the goodwill of the United States to develop our bilateral cooperation, you know, just with other countries.
We're going back to the moment that the Russian invasion was there, 24th of February 2022. It's going on for 3.5 years. There are a lot of casualties. It's a difficult question, but how many casualties do you think there are on Russian side and on Ukraine side? What are the numbers which is?
Well, you know, for the Russian casualties, I cannot give exact figure because it's up to our Ministry of Defense to do so. But certainly there are casualties. It's quite a lot.
I mean, there are tens of thousands of casualties.
Yes, probably tens of thousands.
Hundreds of thousands?
Well, I can say that for Ukraine it's approaching 1 million.
And is that deaths or is that as well wounded?
Those who are just, they call it, you know, just irreparable casualties. Those who are either dead or wounded, they cannot return back to the military service. You know, our casualties are less, much less, but they are still substantial. Certainly, we cannot deny.
What is? How much less? What are the percentages?
No, what there was recently exchange of dead. Of corpses, yeah, from both sides, yeah.
Right.
We handed over to the Ukrainians about 7,000 bodies.
Right.
We received back, I think about 100.
Really?
Yeah. That's
giving.
You can calculate. Yeah, you can calculate. Yeah.
Yeah, it is as well the result of the fact that the last 1.5 years, Russia is winning on the front.
Yeah, we are advancing. We are each day we are liberating a village or a town. And yesterday it was announced that Chasov Yar is liberated. It was a big stronghold it's a big town,
right.
And it was a big stronghold of Ukrainian forces. They called it Chasov Yar Fortress. So this fortress is now taking back, and certainly it took us a lot of time, but it was a very I would say,
Pokrovsk?
difficult operation, yeah.
And the Pokrovsk city?
Pokrovsk will be liberated very soon, yeah. It's now virtually liberated. So each day we have absolutely evident success. We are advancing, perhaps not as quickly as one might wish, but steadily, you know, just steadily. And the aim is, yes, is to liberate the whole territory of Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson regions. Lugansk region is already absolutely free of Ukrainian troops, and the others are for about 80% are also liberated. Yeah, that's the task for our military. Yeah, but you know, we at the same time we are absolutely prepared for a political solution.
Well, what can we? Because then we're gonna go there. What are the aims of Russia on the table, and what can be the solution? What are the goals of the Russian?
Okay, yes. You know, they were announced by President Putin a year ago, and I think they still remain more or less the same. And when we exchanged memorandums with the Ukrainians in the course of this Istanbul talks, I think we presented our memorandum. It was not published, the text of it was not published, but I can imagine the main elements of it, you know. It's first of all, the recognition of the territories of these republics, these districts, these parts of the Russian Federation.
You say Ukraine has to recognize Donetsk,
Lugansk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson.
And Crimea.
Crimea, it's out of the question. Certainly. We are not discussing Crimea. Crimea is part of Russia, you know.
Yeah, but no one recognizes.
Yes. Four regions, four republics: Crimea, Lugansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and Kherson. These are just within their official boundaries. That's the first element. The second element is the neutrality of Ukraine. So Ukraine is to be non-aligned countries and should not join any military blocs. Then
so it can't be part of NATO?
No, certainly, no.
You think it can be part of the European Union?
Well, the European Union is not a military bloc.
No,
it's a political bloc, and we are not.
Yeah, one of the problems.
We are not against, by the way, if Ukraine joins European Union, if Europeans are prepared to have within their ranks this big country with impoverished population, with cheap labor, with organized crime. Well, it's
what you say it's not.
It's up to the Europeans.
What you say it's not very attractive for the European Union to adapt Ukraine in their circles.
I will not give any advice to the Europeans, but I am sure it will create a lot of problems for Europe.
Right.
For Europe.
No, but you say in principle you can talk about the fact, or you're open for the fact that Ukraine can be part of the European Union, as long as the European Union is not a military bloc, because there's a lot of discussion now, as you know.
No. If it is a military bloc, aggressive military bloc, then we will not certainly favor and accept the joining Ukraine of this formation. But I believe so far, European Union is far from being a military bloc, though in spite of all this militaristic language and now of all these militaristic preparations, but it is still...
Well, as you say, NATO decided to go from 2% BP, the last months in The Hague, to 5% BP. That means that as well in Europe, out of Brussels, Mrs. von der Leyen said is that 800 billion euros would be invested into the military.
Yeah, you know.
What is your reaction on that?
Oh, you know, first of all, we are very much concerned about this militaristic language of the European leaders, you know. They are now declaring that they are preparing for a war with Russia by 2030. That was stated numerously by different...
2030.
2030, yeah, so in 5 years.
You have the impression that the European leaders, the European establishment is preparing for a direct war with the Russian Federation by 2030.
That's not we feel, that's what they are saying this, you know. They are saying is that by 2030, we must be prepared for a war with Russia.
Right.
You know? And they are accusing us of all kind of aggressive attitudes towards Europe, though we do not have them. You know, our president, our foreign minister, it was stated on different levels by different people that we do not have any aggressive plans towards Europe. We are not going to attack Europe. We do not need it, you know. But we hear, okay, now they will get rid with Ukraine, and then they will attack, for instance, Estonia or Lithuania. That's absolutely nonsense, you know. We don't have these plans. And those who are speaking about a future war with Russia, war between NATO and Russia, between Europe and Russia, you know, they are absolutely naive or just people who do not understand the situation, or it's a kind of a direct attempt to intimidate us, you know, because I don't believe that the European leaders, that the NATO officials, they are so stupid not to understand that the war between NATO and Russia will not be a conventional war. It will not be something that is now going on in Ukraine. It will inevitably develop on a certain stage into a nuclear war, right, into a third world war, with the death for the humanity, you know. We do not want this fate for our children, for our grandchildren. No.
Right.
Yeah. But if they are...
You think that Europe is, in a certain way, the European leaders and the European Union, and as well the NATO members, are very irresponsible in this conflict?
Very irresponsible. I understand why they need this military rhetoric. Yeah, first of all, certainly, to push the funds into the military-industrial complex that is the biggest beneficiary of all this development.
Right.
And then to distract, just for instance, the attention of the population from other issues, from this growth of tariffs, yeah, from this inflation, etc., etc., etc. When you have just external enemy, it's easier to explain the difficulties that you are facing, you know. And then certainly they use this Russophobia as a means to unite Europe. In spite of all, we all see that a lot of contradictions,
Well, there are some different views inside Europe, especially the southeast countries, Hungary, Slovakia, Croatia, Serbia, are not, I mean, they try to take a kind of middle course and they want to get out of the war. And they don't back Ukraine in military in the war with Russia.
Yeah, even in Western Europe, there are countries that are not very eager, you know, just to pump money in Ukraine. You know?
Spain.
Yeah. But this Russophobia, this Russian threat, is needed, yes, to somehow to create a kind of a united front, you know. But there is also one thing that I would like to say, that this rhetoric of some European leaders about Russian threat reminds me of a rhetoric of the Nazi Germany before the Second World War. You know, when they were preparing to attack the Soviet Union, Goebbels' propaganda, they were just menacing everyone with the threat from the East. I understand.
When you talk about Germany now, right, there is an awful history between especially Germany and Russia, the Soviet Union as well. In the First World War, in the Second World War, in the Cold War. As you said, Mr. Gorbachev and the government of the Soviet Union gave the possibility Germany to reunite. It was a handshake as well. Mr. Kohl, I remember, thanked Mr. Gorbachev for this as well. How do you look to Mr. Merz and the German government on the moment?
First of all, yes, I would like just to end my observation. When I am saying about Goebbels' propaganda, I am not trying to put on equal footing Europe, today's Europe, and Nazi Germany. No, it's different, absolutely. But the methods of propaganda are similar, you know. But if we speak about the present politics of Germany, yes, you know, it's Germans are very ungrateful, I would say, and they should remember their past. Those politicians who are now speaking about possible war with Russia, including with Mr. Merz, their fathers and grandfathers fought within the ranks of the Hitler Germany, of the Nazi Germany, and that they brought enormous sufferings on our soil. And you know, I believe that the historic debt of Germany to the Soviet Union, to the peoples of the Soviet Union, to Russia and other peoples, are not paid yet. No, you know, and this is very, very irresponsible, I would say, speeches, very irresponsible language. Yeah, the Germans should be much more reserved.
Right. When you and me were young in the Cold War, we remember Germany as the bridge between the Soviet Union, especially in the East Bloc, and the West.
Yeah.
Would you say it lost this bridge function?
Yes, this bridge is lost, absolutely. 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 This, regrettably, you know, and all the bridges, I would say, they are destroyed, and it will be very difficult to rebuild them, to restore them, you know. For instance, Finland, in the time of the Soviet Union, was the biggest partner of our country, you know. Finnish economy was mainly oriented at the market of the Soviet Union. So they took a lot of advantages, being neutral, being a kind of just platform for different international meetings for us. Now they joined NATO. They are very aggressive. Their language is extremely aggressive, you know. So that's very, I would say, very disappointing, because with Finland we have a long border. It's our neighbor. And well, if we generally, if we speak about Russia and Europe, yes, we are doomed to live on one continent. Russia will not move somewhere, you know, just, and Europe will not move somewhere. So there will be a need to restore the dialogue, the relations, but each day it becomes more and more difficult, you know.
When we go back to Ukraine, and especially the role Mr. Zelensky as well is playing there, first of all, the role with the European Union, you don't think it is a real option that the coming years for the European Union will be a military bloc, especially when the Americans are, let's say, floating away from NATO, that the European Union will be more militarized under the condition of, let's say, the Germans and the French. What do you say? And doesn't that mean that the Russians have to be opposed the integration of Ukraine inside the European Union?
Well, frankly speaking, I am not sure that the United States will leave NATO. I believe that's just a kind of a rhetoric to increase this military spending, and, you know, this attitude of Mr. Trump that Americans are not supposed to pay for the security of others. But even if they do so, it will be difficult for the Europeans to create something comparable to NATO, because NATO is based now on the military strength of the United States, of its military might of the United States. For the Europeans, it would be very difficult to create something similar, you know, because we know that
well, you can say that there is a European Union when they adapt, let's say, Britain and Norway, right? And they make a kind of alliance, the European NATO alliance. Then we have together more than 3 times the military budget than the Russian Federation. We have even together a bigger army than the Russian Federation.
Yeah, but what about nuclear armaments? Yes,
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, United UK and France, they do have, but they cannot be even compared to the nuclear arsenals of United States, of Russia, you know. So it's I don't know, but if the Europeans choose this way, it will be, I think, devastating for the Europe itself, you know, just to spend all the existing resources on military preparations that will affect the population, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
I would like to go to the possibilities of negotiations. There is the impression here, especially in the mainstream media, that Mr. Zelensky, as well with support of his Western partners, wants to make a deal, and that Mr. Putin and the Russian Federation don't want to make a deal.
Yeah.
What is the reality for you?
Well, first of all, you know, it was the Russian Federation that proposed these peace talks in Istanbul. That are now, we have already 3 rounds. Yes, they have limited output so far, but that's at least a dialogue.
Right.
what Ukraine and their Western patrons want now, they want a ceasefire. Ceasefire for 1 month, for 6 months, for 2 months. Not a peace, you know, not a peace deal, but a ceasefire, immediate ceasefire. And certainly, why they need this? Because the situation on the front line is very difficult, so they want
it
time.
is a disaster for them, and you are winning on the front line.
Yeah, they want time to regroup, to rearm, to gain some time. It's more or less the same as with Minsk Agreements, you know. So they need now time to.
So what you say is they want a ceasefire to regroup, and they don't want a peace.
Yes, and then okay, there will be ceasefire for 3 months. They will regroup. They will regain their military potential, and then the hostilities will start again. That's
how far when you take your goals. Your goals are in fact. They have to accept that these 4 parts, which in fact for great parts under control of the Russian Federation, has to be part of Russia. Yeah. So you say there has to be a redrawing of the international boundary, right? And Ukraine has to be neutral, so not part of NATO.
Well,
how far, you have the impression, is Kiev going to come to your goals?
You know, Kiev is not, I would say, fully independent in its decisions. I think that we all understand that it's, to a certain extent, is under foreign governance. It used to be the United States, now mainly it's the United Kingdom and France and Germany. So if they exert some pressure on Kiev, and even the United States exert some pressure on Kiev, the deal could be achieved, you know, because, you know, these four republics, 5 republics, including Crimea, they will never come back to Ukraine. That's not just possible. They should accept this fact.
Is there a possibility to make a deal inside these, let's say, 4 republics? Because when I look to Zaporozhye and I look to Kherson, you control only the south side of the Dnieper and not the north side of the Dnieper. That's right?
Yeah. But at the same time, we control a big part of other parts of Ukraine. This
Luhansk 100% and Donetsk 80%. And when I look to where the war is going, the last months or the last year, it is especially concentrated in the west side of Donetsk. Is that right?
Yeah, but we control certain parts of the north of Ukraine, including Sumy region, including some parts of other regions of Ukraine.
And you want to swap these?
Maybe there could be a deal. It's not that we are now proposing, but if there is a will, then there could be kind of a solution, you know. For us, territories, certainly these 5 republics, yes, they must be within Russia. But other territories are not that important to us. For instance, but the other issues are also to be addressed. I mean, the neutral status of Ukraine, recognition of the Russian language as a
so you want in fact a deal which is let's say a contract in which the present government in Kiev says we recognize that these 4 areas are part of the Russian Federation.
Yes, basically,
and
yes.
we never will part of NATO.
Yeah.
We will be neutral.
Neutral, yeah.
You have to write this down.
Yeah, that should be fixed.
You need guarantees as well from NATO?
Yes, that should be fixed in an international treaty with certainly with international guarantees. Yeah, certainly.
So the Americans and Europeans has to accept it and recognize it as well.
Yeah.
So otherwise, when they say, okay, we for this moment accept the borders as they are, that's not enough for you.
No, we need to...
Well, there is a difference between accepting the borders for now, as they did in fact with Crimea, or officially recognizing...
Officially, certainly.
The redrawing of the international border.
Yeah, officially recognizing the existing status quo and certainly the presence of 5 republics in the Russian Federation as subjects of the Russian Federation within their administrative borders. Yeah. And we can theoretically just make a deal by returning some parts of other regions of Ukraine in the north of the country that are now under our control.
Right.
Yeah, but it's. I am now thinking out loud. That's not our position as we presented it. For the time being, what we want this recognition of the territorial reality, the neutral status of Ukraine, and the demilitarized status of Ukraine, just to have...
When you talk about demilitarization of Ukraine, what we talk about? I mean, the army has to be small?
Yeah, small army. Like, for instance, they have in Switzerland, small army. It might be, it's an army that is not aimed at just attacking others, It's a kind of a defense army. And certainly...
how big? Because the army now is between 500,000 and 800,000 men on the Ukrainian side, supported by NATO weapons. How small, how big can it be, in your view?
Well, I am not, frankly speaking, now prepared to give exact figures, but much smaller certainly than it is now. And what is also very important to us is certainly the ban on the propaganda and glorification of Nazism, because Europeans prefer not to notice this phenomena, but Nazist feelings are very strong in Ukraine. They cherish Bandera, for instance, who was one of the Hitler's subordinates.
There's a big statue in Lviv of Bandera in the center of Lviv.
And who exterminated thousands of Jews,
Right.
Yeah, and he's proclaimed national hero. And like others, like Shukhevich, for instance, etc. So there are formations that are using these Nazi symbols, this is also very important, but if there is a will, then we believe the peace can be achieved, and certainly that should be a very fair deal. When, for instance, Mr. Trump is saying, I want ceasefire in 8 days, that's not serious, it cannot be achieved. No. And if he wants something, he should not only put some demands and claims, he should contribute, and the contribution on his part could be the ban on all military aid to Ukraine.
Yeah, that is you want from Mr. Trump and the Americans that they stop military aid to Ukraine.
Yeah.
Maybe, and we're going to the end of our interview. But maybe some reflection about the role Mr. Zelensky is playing. Can he be the man who's signing the contract, or do you think that it would be the best that Mr. Zelensky is leaving the podium?
Well, first of all, officially he is not now the legitimate president of Ukraine, because his term of office expired, I think, more than a year ago, and the constitution of Ukraine does not allow any extension of the term of office, you know. So
not even in a time of emergency.
No.
Right.
So we certainly we can. Our president is not against, by the way, meeting him. He declared that he might have a summit or meeting with him. But certainly this meeting should be well prepared. It should somehow fix, not to be a meeting for the sake of a meeting, but to fix the agreements that are already elaborated on the level of experts, of delegations. Yeah, but then certainly it comes the question of the legitimacy of Mr. Zelensky, because okay, he signed something, yeah. Then the next president of Ukraine says, "Oh no, who was this man? He was
not.
He was not just a president. No. And this also, but this can be just a kind of a solution. Yeah, perhaps the state.
But you think
the parliament of Ukraine could endorse it, you know, just because the parliament is legitimate. Parliament.
Yeah, but the point is, isn't it the fact that Ukraine needs, in fact, elections?
Yeah.
And choose a new leader or adapt Mr. Zelensky as well as their leader to make a part.
Certainly, for the Ukraine, it will be the best solution. It will be to have elections, to elect a new president, or to re-elect, perhaps, Mr. Zelensky, if they choose so. And then we, as legitimate president, he or other person can sign anything that they believe they're in
you think Mr. Zelensky showed himself the last 3.5 years as one of the hardliners, right? You think that the Ukrainian people will select him again as their president?
You know, I doubt personally. I doubt that they will elect him.
Right.
But it's up to them to decide. Yeah, certainly. But I doubt, taking into account.
But isn't it, when you want to make a peace deal, shouldn't it better for all parties to have more moderate, neutral man who is as well wanting to communicate with the big brother in the East?
Yes, my personal view that it would be better. It would be better. But we will be prepared to deal with a president that is elected, a legitimate president. By the way, Zelensky came to power when he was elected, yeah, on a very, very positive program and promises, you know. He promised to respect Russian language. He promised to, and he's by himself is a Russian speaking.
Right.
You know, he promised to respect Russian culture, Russian population. By the way, as an actor, he was very popular in Russia. You know?
Right.
His films, they are good comedies, I would say.
Right.
They were quite popular.
You think that Mr. Zelensky was in fact cheating when, I mean, he came to power in 2019. In fact, he's cheating on the moment.
Yes, he cheated. He cheated his electorate. He cheated those who voted for him and for his promises to improve relations with Russia. He cheated them.
Isn't there a great part of the Russian-minded Ukrainian people, especially in the east and the south, who feel themselves betrayed by this
yes.
man.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes, that's the fact. That's the fact. You know, now it's very difficult in Ukraine to express their civil position, their civic position, their political views, because the population is being brutally suppressed by the authorities. There is just censorship, everything.
You want to say that Ukraine on the moment is a police state in which...
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Police state where there are absolutely no freedoms, no freedom of speech, no freedom of expression, no.
The mainstream media is saying that Russia is...
Well, that's the mainstream media that is saying this, yeah?
Right.
Yeah, I would not...
It is not reality.
No, I would not expect anything different from the mainstream media, but that's not true, I would say it like this. That's not true.
How many freedom of speech in the Russian media and by the Russian population is possible about the position of the war?
Well, certainly we have now certain restrictions, but it's understandable because this military operation and it goes on.
Right.
So you cannot attack our army, our military forces. You cannot disseminate some false facts about the situation on the front line, you know.
But
you can criticize. You can criticize. You know, you can criticize military authorities, military commanders. You can express different views on how...
Can you say that you are against the war? Is it possible to say in Russia, I'm a pacifist, I'm against this war, I mean, this is our brother country, I don't want this war?
Well, there are a lot of people who are saying this, you know.
Right.
Yeah, not the majority. The majority of the population supports this, in spite of all the difficulties that we sometimes experience. We support the military operation, and the polls show the quite wide range support. About 80% of the population supports the operation, but certainly there are those who are against. It's understandable, and they can. There are a lot of channels, a lot of Telegram channels, a lot of internet sites that express different views. You know, okay, you may do so. You may do so. But if you disseminate some false facts, you know,
right.
Yeah, if you attack the army when it is not true, then
you have a problem.
Yes, you have to suffer some administrative fines or so, or something like this. Yeah.
Right.
But in Ukraine, it is even not possible to say that I want to speak Russian. They ban, you know, the use of Russian in the everyday life, you know.
Right.
Yeah.
How many? I read as well that hundreds of thousands of men are fled from the army.
Yeah.
They come to Russia and they come to Europe.
Yeah.
So there is, in fact, and I read as well that, and I saw as well in films that Ukrainian men are get from the street and sent to the front.
That's the big problem for the Ukrainian society, because people are caught on the streets. They are sent to the front, and there they are either die the very first day because they are not prepared, you know, just they are not trained.
Right.
Or they surrender, or they try to escape.
Right. When do you think we can have an end to this conflict? give us an estimation.
You know, when the other side, I mean the West, the Ukraine is, as I said, is not an independent in their politics. When the veterans of the Ukrainian regime understand that there should be a solution that is based on the balance of interests, then the peace can be achieved very quickly. And I think this solution might come because each day the situation for Ukraine becomes worse and worse and worse. Each day the terms of settlement for them become more difficult. So I am not certainly, I cannot give you any timetable, you know. I wish it happened tomorrow. I wish, but I don't think it's possible.
And you think it can be in 2025? And Mr. Trump can play a nice role in this?
Well, Mr. Trump, if he contributes not by threats and ultimatums, but by some kind of a realistic input, yeah, then perhaps yes.
Mr. Tarabrin, I want to thank you very much for this interview.
Thank you very much.
To our Black Box viewers, thank you for your attention. Please be a member of the channel, and I hope you can help to continue this channel. Thank you for your attention, and goodbye.